The sky was too quiet. In a small city on the edge of Europe, people stood still, staring upward. No clouds, no birds, no sound. It was the kind of silence that made your heart beat faster. A silence that warned of something coming. News screens on buildings flashed red, final shield still holding. Evacuation failed. The people didn't move. There was nowhere left to run. The Xarn were already here. 2 years ago, they came from the stars without a word, without warning. Ships as black as night appeared above cities. Then fire, death, destruction. Humanity tried to fight back, but bullets, tanks, even nukes, none of it worked. One by one, the countries fell. Now only a few places remained, protected by energy shields made from old alien tech found years ago. No one thought they'd ever be used. Now, they were the last hope. In a dark room under the city, General Rafik stood before a large glowing map. Red dots covered the planet. Each one showed a place that had fallen. Only 5 green lights remained. "This is it," he said, voice heavy. "They'll break through within hours." Beside him, a woman watched the screen. She wore a black uniform with a silver eagle badge. Her name was Commander Rainavel. She didn't speak. She had heard these words before. Years ago, she had led a secret team into space. Earth's last project, hidden even from most world leaders. They were called the Skyborn. Trained to fight where no one else could. For years, they had waited, quiet, watching, preparing. Now the time had come. A soft beep echoed through the control room. A message had arrived. It was old, dusty, buried deep in the Earth's defense systems. No one knew how it got there. Raina stepped forward and pressed play. A hologram lit the room. It showed a man in a lab coat, tired eyes, and gray hair. "If you're seeing this," the man said, "then Earth stands at the edge. The Xarn cannot be stopped with brute force. But there is another way." Raina knew that voice. Her father, missing for 10 years. The message ended with coordinates, a place in orbit, hidden behind the moon. General Rafik turned to Raina. "Is this real?" She nodded slowly. "It's time." Outside, the shield began to flicker. The Xarn were close. Raina walked to the launch chamber. A massive door opened to reveal a sleek silver ship, unlike anything seen on Earth. It hummed softly, alive with power. Behind her, 12 others followed, the last Skyborn. They had no flags, no borders, no country. Only one mission: protect Earth. Raina looked at them and said, "We are what's left. The world is watching. Let's show them Earth is not finished." The ship lifted off, silent and smooth. As it rose above the city, people pointed and gasped. For the first time in months, they saw hope in the sky. The ship disappeared into the clouds, heading for the stars. But far above, hidden in orbit, something else moved. A Xarn command ship, black and vast like a floating mountain, turned its attention. Strange symbols lit up across its surface. It had noticed the launch. Inside, the alien commander clicked and growled in its harsh language. It sensed change. It sensed danger. Earth had awakened. As Raina's ship approached the moon, the stars seemed to shimmer. Then a massive hidden station appeared, long abandoned, covered in dust and ice. It looked like a ghost from a forgotten war. They docked carefully. Inside, the place was dark. Old lights flickered. Machines hummed weakly. In the control room, a single panel glowed. Raina pressed her hand against it. The lights came on. The station breathed again. A voice echoed through the room, metallic and slow. "Commander Rainavel, access granted. Welcome back." She smiled slightly. "We're not too late." A file opened on the screen. XARNWEKNES, UNOCKED. Before she could read it, alarms rang. The Xarn had found them. Ships were coming fast, sharp, silent, deadly. Raina turned to her team. "Get ready. We fight here, or we die here." The Skyborn took their positions. Back on Earth, people watched the news. A blurry image showed a silver ship in space, fighting back. The first human strike in months. They cheered. Hope was not dead. Not yet. Reyna's heart raced as the warning lights flashed across the control room. The Xarn were coming. Fast. Her eyes scanned the screen. "We've got no time," she muttered. "We can't let them reach Earth." The Skyborn team moved quickly, preparing their weapons. A hum filled the air as their suits powered up. Each soldier knew the stakes. They weren't just fighting for their lives. They were fighting for humanity's future. In the control room, a map of the stars appeared. A deep space radar showed dozens of Xarn ships closing in on their position. Reyna's mind raced as she analyzed the data. One ship was larger than the rest, a flagship. If they took it down, the rest would scatter. "Ready the fighters," Reyna ordered. One by one, the Skyborn climbed into their ships, sleek, silver, and built for speed. They soared out of the station, slicing through space like shooting stars. "We're going in fast and hard." Reyna's voice came over the comms. "We need to make a statement. We need the Xarn to know they're not invincible." Her team responded with a series of affirmative clicks and grunts. They were ready. The Skyborn fighters locked onto the Xarn flagship, now a few hundred kilometers away. Reyna's eyes narrowed. The Xarn ships were advanced, deadly, and fast, but they weren't human. And that's where Earth's fighters had an edge. The battle began with an explosion of light. The Skyborn dove into the fray, dodging laser blasts and returning fire. The Xarn flagship fired massive energy beams, cutting through space like knives. Reyna's fighter jerked as a beam grazed her wing. Sparks flew and the ship shuddered. She fought to control it, her hands steady on the controls. Shield strength down to 40%, her system warned. But she wasn't backing down. She pushed the throttle forward, racing toward the flagship. "I'm going in," Reyna called out. Her team followed, staying close. They fired their weapons, hitting the Xarn flagship's outer shields. The Xarn retaliated, sending waves of energy blasts in every direction. But the Skyborn weren't fighting like regular soldiers. They were unpredictable. They didn't follow patterns, didn't think in a straight line. One by one, Xarn ships began to fall. As the battle raged on, Reyna spotted a weakness in the flagship's defense. A small gap near its engines. A chance. But it was risky. She had to get close, too close. Her mind flashed to her team. "We don't leave anyone behind," she said into the comms. "Stay with me." She made her move, her ship rocketing forward. The Xarn flagship tried to adjust its weapons, but it was too late. Reyna fired everything she had at the gap. A massive explosion shook the space around her. The flagship's outer layer cracked, and the ship veered off course. "We've done it." A Skyborn voice cheered over the comms. "We've broken their shields." But Reyna didn't cheer. The flagship was still alive. Its core wasn't destroyed. She couldn't risk Earth's defense being overwhelmed by a retreating ship. "Finish it," Reyna shouted. Her team moved in, firing relentlessly until the flagship broke apart in a fiery explosion. The remaining Xarn ships scattered, retreating into the darkness of space. Reyna's heart beat wildly. She felt the weight of the moment, the relief, but also the fear. This wasn't over. The Xarn would come again. Back on Earth, the news spread like wildfire. People watched the footage of the Skyborn fighters taking down the Xarn flagship. The world hadn't seen a victory in so long. In bunkers, on street corners, in homes, humanity felt a spark of hope. But Reyna knew better. This was just the beginning. She landed her fighter back on the hidden space station, breathing heavily. Her hands were still shaking, but her mind was clear. The other Skyborn followed her, walking to the command center. They didn't cheer. They didn't celebrate. The war was far from over. As they gathered around the central table, Reyna's thoughts turned to the message she had seen earlier. The one from her father. XRNWEKNES UNOCKT. She reached for the file again. There had to be more to it. What was it that the Xarn feared? What was the weakness? The door to the room slid open, and a new voice echoed through the space. "It's time." A tall figure stood in the doorway. It was the AI from the old space station. Its voice was mechanical, cold but full of authority. "You've won your first battle, but the war is far from over. The Xarn will return." Reyna looked at the team. "We're ready for whatever comes next." The AI stepped forward, its eyes glowing. "The next step is not easy. You must go where no human has gone before." Reyna's heart skipped. "Where?" The AI paused. "To the edge of the galaxy, to a place the Xarn fear." She didn't hesitate. "We'll go." Cliffhanger. The AI reveals that the only way to defeat the Xarn is to reach an ancient place, their homeworld. But it's a journey no one has survived. Reyna's fingers hovered over the glowing control panel. The AI had given them the next mission, to travel to the edge of the galaxy. But Reyna knew that this wasn't just about following orders. This was their last chance to win the war. The AI's voice echoed through the room. "You must find the beacon. Only then will you learn the truth about the Xarn's weakness." The word beacon struck Reyna like a lightning bolt. What was this beacon? And why was it so important to the Xarn? "I don't understand," Reyna said, looking at the AI. "Why haven't we heard of this before? What's so special about it?" The AI's light flickered. "It was hidden long ago, even before the Xarn arrived. It holds the knowledge that can defeat them. But the journey to find it is dangerous. No one has returned alive from the path you must take." The room was silent. The Skyborn exchanged worried glances. Reyna was the first to speak. "We don't have a choice. If this beacon holds the key to ending the war, then we go. Now." The AI turned, its light shifting like a pulse. "Prepare yourself. The coordinates are in the farthest reaches of space, beyond any known star system. It is a place where time and space bend in strange ways. You will need every skill, every weapon, and every ounce of courage you have." Reyna nodded. "We're ready." The journey begins. The Skyborn fighters left the hidden space station and moved into deep space. As they passed the outer reaches of Earth's solar system, they felt the weight of the unknown pressing down on them. No one had ever traveled this far before. The darkness of space stretched endlessly before them, broken only by distant stars. Reyna piloted the lead ship, her mind focused, but even she couldn't shake the feeling of dread. There were too many unknowns, too many risks. What if the AI was wrong? What if the beacon didn't exist? Or worse, what if it was just a trap? "Everyone stay sharp," she ordered, her voice calm but firm over the comms. "We don't know what we'll face out here." As they flew deeper into space, the stars seemed to fade. The darkness grew thicker, and soon, even the light from their ship's engines couldn't cut through it. The control systems began to flicker. Reyna glanced at her screens. Nothing looked right. "I don't like this," she muttered to herself. Then suddenly the silence was broken by a strange, soft hum. It was coming from deep within the void. A signal. A whisper. Reyna's heart skipped. "What is that?" The AI's voice filled her ship's cockpit. "You are nearing the beacon's location. Be prepared. The closer you get, the more dangerous it will become." As they moved closer, the hum grew louder. And then they saw it. In the distance, a faint light appeared. A small, flickering beacon suspended in space like a tiny star. It pulsed with a soft blue glow. "That's it," Reyna whispered. "The beacon." Her team followed her as they approached the strange object. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, shaped like an ancient artifact, with symbols carved into its surface. The symbols glowed faintly, shifting and changing as they approached. "This is it," Reyna said again, more certain this time. "The key to everything." A strange welcome. But as they drew closer, something unexpected happened. The space around the beacon seemed to twist and bend. The fabric of time and space itself seemed to ripple. Reyna's ship shook violently, and the rest of the Skyborn fighters followed suit. "Brace yourselves." Reyna shouted, fighting to control the ship as it bucked in the strange energy field surrounding the beacon. Then, as if the universe itself had decided to respond, the entire fleet was pulled into a swirling vortex of light. The world around them collapsed in on itself. Time stretched, twisted, and then everything went black. The lost station. When Reyna regained consciousness, she found herself inside a strange, ancient station. The walls were covered in symbols, the same symbols as the beacon. The air smelled old like dust and forgotten memories. She looked around. Her team was scattered, but alive. "Everyone okay?" she asked. "I think so," one of the Skyborn replied. "What just happened? Where are we?" Reyna stood up slowly, looking around. The station was enormous, stretching for miles in every direction. The walls seemed to pulse with an energy they couldn't explain. The AI's voice returned. "You are inside a forgotten place, an ancient station built by a species long gone. It holds knowledge, but it also holds dangers." Reyna took a deep breath. "Let's find what we came for." They moved cautiously through the station, their footsteps echoing in the quiet halls. As they walked, the walls seemed to come alive, glowing faintly in response to their presence. After hours of searching, they found a large central chamber. At its center was a pedestal, and on that pedestal an object, a glowing crystal, pulsing with energy. It was beautiful, but its light felt wrong, like it was calling to them, urging them to take it. Reyna approached it slowly, her hand reaching out. "This is it, isn't it?" she whispered. The AI responded softly. "Yes, the beacon, but you must be careful. The Xarn have sought this for millennia, and they are not the only ones who want it." Reyna's eyes widened. "Who else?" Before the AI could answer, the sound of footsteps echoed from behind them. Reyna's hand froze just inches from the glowing crystal on the pedestal. The air around it hummed with an unsettling energy. Behind her, the others were tense, their eyes scanning the room, weapons ready. Something was wrong. They could feel it. The footsteps grew louder, echoing through the chamber. The sound was steady, purposeful. Someone or something was coming toward them. "Everyone, stay alert," Reyna whispered, her voice barely a breath above the hum of the station. "We don't know what's out there." Her team moved into position, forming a protective circle around the pedestal. The shadows in the corners of the chamber seemed to shift, as if alive. Then from the darkness, figures emerged. At first, Reyna thought they were just more shadows, but as they stepped into the light, she realized they were not human. They were tall, their bodies covered in strange reflective armor, their faces hidden behind dark helmets. Their movements were smooth, precise, like hunters who had been waiting for this moment. The figures stopped a few feet from Reyna and her team. One of them stepped forward. The voice that came from its helmet was deep, distorted yet clear. "You've come for the beacon," it said. "We've been waiting." Reyna's heart skipped. Who were these beings? And how did they know? "Who are you?" Reyna asked, trying to sound calm despite the rising tension. The figure tilted its head slightly, as if considering her question. "We are the Keepers," it said. "The last of an ancient race that watched over this place." Reyna felt a chill creep down her spine. "The beacon is not meant for you," she said, her voice firm. "It's a weapon. We need it to stop the Xarn." The Keeper's head tilted again. "The Xarn? They are nothing compared to what you will face." The Keeper's voice grew colder. "The beacon was never meant for war. It was meant to protect from something far worse than your Xarn." Reyna stepped closer, her gaze never leaving the Keeper. "Then tell us what we need to do. We're running out of time." The Keeper was silent for a long moment. The shadows seemed to stretch, twisting in the dim light. Finally, it spoke again, its voice low and almost mournful. "The Xarn came to this galaxy long before your people. They were not the first invaders. There was something else. Something older, more powerful. The Xarn came to destroy them, but not to save you." Reyna's mind raced. "What do you mean? The Xarn are the ones attacking Earth. Why would they want to destroy something older?" The keeper stepped closer, and the others instinctively tightened their formation around Reyna. Because the Xarn fear what is hidden within the beacon, a power they cannot control, a force that could undo them and everything else in this galaxy. The room seemed to grow colder as the keeper's words sank in. Reyna's thoughts spun. If the Xarn feared the beacon, then what exactly was it protecting? Who else is after the beacon? Reyna asked, her voice steady. The keeper's eyes, dark behind the helmet, seemed to focus on her. You are not the only ones who have come. There are others in the galaxy who seek the beacon's power. Some who would use it for destruction. Some who would destroy it so no one can use it. Reyna felt a knot tighten in her stomach. What do we do now? The keeper's voice grew even softer, almost a whisper. You must choose. Take the beacon and you will unleash its power. But be warned, the path you choose may bring more destruction than you can handle. Reyna's mind raced. This wasn't just a fight against the Xarn anymore. The stakes had grown beyond anything she could have imagined. But they couldn't stop now. Earth's future depended on it. We'll take it, she said, her voice firm. We don't have a choice. The keeper stepped back, as if to give them space. Then be ready. The true test is yet to come. A deadly encounter. The moment Reyna reached for the beacon, the ground beneath her feet trembled. The entire station shook, sending dust and debris falling from the ceiling. Everyone hold on, Reyna shouted, grabbing the pedestal for support. The keepers stepped back, their armored forms blending with the shadows. It's too late, one of them said, their voice filled with a strange mix of sorrow and warning. You've disturbed it. Now it will wake. Suddenly the station's lights flickered, and a loud, unearthly sound filled the air. It was a low hum at first, like a distant rumble, but it quickly grew into a deafening roar. The walls of the station began to crack, and the floor buckled beneath them. Reyna's eyes widened as the walls began to twist and warp. The station itself seemed to be alive, shifting, reacting to the beacon's presence. What's happening? One of her team shouted, his voice panicked. Before Reyna could answer, the massive shadow appeared in the doorway of the chamber. It moved with unnatural speed, filling the entire doorway with its towering form. A monstrous creature, unlike anything Reyna had ever seen, stepped into the room. It was a nightmare made flesh, long, slithering tendrils, glowing eyes, and a massive, armored body covered in jagged spikes. It let out a roar that shook the room, and Reyna felt her blood freeze in her veins. This wasn't just an enemy. This was something ancient, something powerful. The keeper spoke one last time before disappearing into the shadows. This is the true threat, the one that Xarn fear, the one the beacon was meant to protect you from. The creature advanced, and Reyna knew they had no choice but to fight. The creature's roar echoed through the chamber, rattling the walls. Reyna's heart pounded as she watched it move toward them, its massive, spiked body gliding effortlessly across the cracked floor. Its glowing eyes locked onto her, filled with hunger. This thing's huge, one of the Skyborn shouted, barely managing to avoid a swipe from the creature's tendrils. The creature's claws scraped against the stone floor, creating sparks that flew into the air. Reyna didn't have time to think. The entire station was shaking, and the walls were crumbling. Fall back, she shouted. Get to the exit now. But the creature moved faster than they could retreat. One of its tendrils lashed out, striking a Skyborn soldier with terrifying force. He was thrown across the room and slammed against the wall, his body crumpling to the floor. No, Reyna screamed, rushing toward him. She reached him just in time to see him struggle to rise, blood trickling from his mouth. Stay with me, she ordered, but the soldier's eyes were glazing over. He was losing consciousness. The creature let out another deafening roar, its tendrils writhing as it advanced, closing in on the group. The air felt thick with danger, like the station itself was trying to swallow them whole. We can't outrun this thing, Reyna shouted, her voice steady despite the chaos. We need to fight back. One of the Skyborn Lieutenant Corps stepped forward, his weapon in hand. We'll need every shot we've got, he said, determination in his voice. Reyna nodded, reaching for her own weapon. The Skyborn team spread out, taking their positions. But they were no match for the creature's sheer size and power. Its claws were like razors, and its tendrils moved with deadly precision, striking like lightning. "Hit it with everything," Reyna shouted. The team opened fire, the sound of energy blasts ringing through the air. The creature howled in pain, but it didn't stop. It only grew more enraged. Reyna fired again, aiming for the creature's glowing eyes. Her shot hit its mark, but the creature barely flinched. Instead, it lashed out with a tendril, knocking Kor's weapon from his hand. "Fall back." Reyna ordered again, but the creature was faster this time. It struck with a force that sent Reyna flying across the room. Her head slammed against the cold floor, and everything went dark. The awakening of the beacon. When Reyna came to, her head throbbed with pain. She could hear the distant sound of explosions and shouting, but everything around her was blurry. Slowly her vision cleared, and she saw that she was lying on the floor, her hand still gripping her weapon. The creature was still advancing, but something was different now. The air around the beacon, the crystal on the pedestal, seemed to shimmer with an energy of all its own. The beacon. The creature was no longer focused entirely on them. It was drawn to the beacon, its eyes glowing with an even more intense light. The ground beneath them shook, and the walls began to pulse with an eerie glow. The beacon itself seemed to respond to the creature's presence. Reyna pushed herself to her feet, ignoring the pain in her body. She could feel the energy building. The creature was getting closer, but the beacon, it was doing something. She could feel it in the air. "No," Reyna whispered, eyes widening. "It's awakening." The Keeper's warning echoed in her mind. The true test is yet to come. Reyna's breath caught in her throat as the beacon suddenly erupted with a blinding light. The creature shrieked in agony, its body jerking violently. Its glowing eyes flickered, and the tendrils that had once moved with such precision now flailed wildly, as if struggling to maintain control. The light from the beacon intensified, surrounding the creature. Reyna could feel the power building, like a wave of energy surging through the room. "We have to stop this," Kor shouted, stumbling to his feet. But Reyna couldn't move. The energy from the beacon was overwhelming, making it hard to focus. She looked up at the creature, now struggling against the power of the beacon. It wasn't just a weapon. It was something far more ancient, far more dangerous. The creature let out one last, terrible scream before it was swallowed by the light. The entire station shook, and Reyna's vision blurred. The walls began to crack, pieces of the station falling away into the void of space. And then, just as suddenly as it had started, the light from the beacon vanished. Reyna collapsed to her knees, gasping for breath. The creature was gone. The room was silent, save for the distant sound of the crumbling station. But something had changed. The energy that had been coursing through the air was now still, like the calm after a storm. "Is it over?" Kor asked, his voice shaky. Reyna stood slowly, looking around the room. The beacon still pulsed with a faint light, but the creature was gone. The station, though damaged, had stopped shaking. For a moment, everything seemed still. But Reyna knew this wasn't over. The Xarn would still come. The power of the beacon was not just a weapon. It was something that could change everything. And the galaxy had only just begun to wake up to it. A new path. Reyna turned to her team. "We can't stay here," she said, her voice low but steady. "The Xarn will be on us soon, and we need to move." They gathered around the beacon, preparing to leave the ancient station. Reyna didn't know what the next step would be, but she knew that the fight was far from over. As they made their way back to their ships, Reyna felt the weight of the beacon in her hands. The galaxy was changing, and they had just awakened something far more powerful than they had ever imagined. The war was not over. In fact, it had just begun. Reyna stared at the massive shadow rising beyond the shattered edges of the ancient station. It was a Xarn warship, and it wasn't alone. One by one, more dark shapes appeared, sliding out from the black void like predators circling wounded prey. Their ships were silent, deadly, and impossibly fast. "We've got incoming," Kor said, his voice low and grim. Reyna tightened her grip on the beacon. "They're here for this," she said, "and they'll burn the whole system down to get it." The Skyborn squad stood silently around her. They were Earth's best, chosen for their skill, bravery, and grit. But even they looked uncertain now. Reyna took a breath. "We're not going down here. Not with this. We get back to Earth. We finish what we started." The ancient station groaned as its structure buckled. The walls were beginning to collapse. There was no time. "Fall back to the ships," Reyna shouted. The team raced through the crumbling tunnels as explosions shook the ground beneath their feet. Behind them, the Xarn ships began launching boarding drones, mechanical horrors with bladed limbs and razor wings. They swarmed like insects. Skyborn opened fire, holding the line, but the drones kept coming. Reyna turned back, raised her weapon, and fired shot after shot until the barrel overheated. They made it to the launch bay, barely. The Skyborn ships were waiting, engines hot. Reyna jumped into the cockpit and slammed the beacon into the containment chamber behind her seat. "Kor, take left wing. Stay tight. No mistakes." "Yes, Commander." They launched into the void as the station behind them exploded in a fireball of ancient dust and blinding light. The battle for Earth. Reyna's ship burst from hyperspace above Earth. What she saw turned her blood cold. The Xarn had arrived. Hundreds of enemy ships orbited the planet, raining plasma and fire down onto Earth's defenses. Cities burned. Satellite defense grids were collapsing. The skies were red with battle. The last global transmission was already on loop. "To all remaining units, hold the line. Protect the core cities. This is our last stand." Reyna activated her comms. "Earth Command, this is Skyborn Team Delta. We have the beacon. Static." Then, "Skyborn? You're alive? God, get to Geneva. All remaining forces are rallying there." Kor's voice came through next. "We'll never make it through that blockade. There's too many of them." Reyna looked at the glowing core of the beacon behind her. She could feel its hum, its power building. She remembered the words of the Keeper. "You must choose. The beacon is not just a weapon. It is a door." Reyna's eyes widened. A door. Maybe, just maybe. One last move. She opened the beacon's command interface, ancient symbols glowing faintly. "Can you activate it?" Kor asked, voice tense. "I think so," Reyna said, hands flying over the controls. "But once I do, there's no going back. Do it." She took a deep breath and pressed the final glyph. The beacon responded instantly. A wave of blinding light burst from her ship, spreading across orbit. Xarn vessels screamed as their systems fried. Some exploded mid-flight, others drifted powerless. But that was just the beginning. The light grew stronger, then space itself ripped open. A shimmering tear appeared above Earth. From that portal, something came through. Dozens of vessels, silver, fast, and glowing with light. At first, Reyna thought it was another enemy. But the signals were clear. These ships were responding to the beacon. And they were not Xarn. They were allies. Forgotten remnants of other species the beacon had once protected. Ancient races in hiding, now awakened by the beacon's call. The sky was no longer red. It was full of fire and light. Humanity's answer. Together, Skyborn, Earth forces, and the mysterious allies launched one final assault. Reyna led the charge, the beacon glowing like a star behind her. Her ship moved like lightning, cutting through enemy lines. Every time it pulsed, enemy systems failed. Xarn ships exploded. Their drones dropped from the sky like rain. One by one, the enemy fleet fell. The battle raged for hours. Then silence. Reyna floated above Earth in the wreckage of 1,000 ships. It was over. They had won. Aftermath. Back on Earth, People came out from bunkers and shattered cities to look up at the sky. What they saw wasn't just victory, it was a miracle. The beacon, now resting in a secure vault beneath the rebuilt Geneva base, still glowed faintly. Earth had new allies now. Mysterious beings who had answered the beacon's call and pledged to help defend the galaxy against future threats. Reyna stood on the platform, looking out at the stars. Kor stood beside her. "You think the Xarn are finished?" "No," she said. "But they'll think twice next time. They thought we were alone." She smiled. "They were wrong."